22nd, 2022. This is a meeting of the advisory committee at 6:30 p.m. And we have a pretty light agenda. I'll call the meeting to order. I know that Jenny very kindly sent out a copy of the transfer request to everybody. I'll put it up right now just so that people can see it for the recorded meeting. In summary, for the past several years, we've been working with legal counsel on some foreclosures, and that whole process costs money to make money. And basically, the amount that we have left in the account is $1,010. We need $1,070 to be able to cover the bills that we know of right now. I wanted to also let you know that our town treasurer, Kristen, said that we'll probably be seeing a few more of these. And so when we're meeting on a regular basis, we can kind of consider them as they come in, but we could also kind of do it on a quarterly basis, so that we're not having to approve them all the time.
I think you'll start to see a few more of these. We're kind of at the point where it's made its way through land court, and we're going to see, they're going to be going to auction in March, so you'll see more of these.
Does anybody have any questions about this transfer request? Nope.
Well, and hopefully once we start getting some fees back, and that's the hope with these auctions and things, they can go into that tax title revolving account. And then, we can start paying kind of out of that account.
Yep. Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I move we approve this transfer request.
I second.
Great, and I'll do a roll call. Craig,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Omid,
Aye.
and Greg, if he can unmute. He may be having some technical difficulties. All right, Greg, can you hear us? Oh, I think he just left or got booted out. Well, anyway, so that'll be 5-0. Oh, sorry, and I'm also in favor. Okay. So then I can share my screen with the draft of the calendar, but before I did that, I just wanted to talk a little bit further about when we meet, should we be meeting in person versus Zoom? And Ninotchka, I don't know whether you wanted to, you can speak for yourself and maybe also tell us what you think department heads and other staff might feel.
I think for department heads, especially who don't live in the town of Bolton, take Kristen for an example, who lives an hour away. Zoom is going to be much more convenient for those folks. The downside to the Zoom, I felt like last year, is that it didn't feel like we dove into as much detail as we do in person. So trade-offs.
I feel like we were good in detail. I mean, we could share everything everyone can see, so it was easier to interact, knowing the information and everything else, doing it through Zoom. Whereas, like, if we were in the meet in person, everyone had to print out everything, and it was really harder to follow on and respond to things.
The draft, hopefully you can all see that, the draft calendar that I sent out, I had a couple sessions tentatively in person, so I think we can do our initial run through, assuming we're all available on December 20th. I think we can do like our initial run through as a group in person. It'd be nice to see everybody. And then it's funny you just mentioned Kristen, because actually our discussion with the town administrator is one of the meetings that I think it would be helpful to have in person, especially since that's typically where he gives us recommendations about capital requests. And then this February 28th is actually kind of a placeholder, but I do know that the district and the chairs of the FinComs in Lancaster and Stowe would like to do what we did last year, where we have sort of a tri-town FinCom presentation with the district. And so they're going to be working on scheduling that, but I think that we probably wouldn't expect that until the second half of February after the February vacation. So February 28th is probably right around when that would happen. Now, I should say whether that's in person or not will depend on the town that hosts, and it's not going to be Bolton. So maybe Stowe or Lancaster might decide to do it by Zoom. Are people generally okay with this plan?
Brian, I like what you did here. I think we've accommodated Zoom where it makes sense, but there are also opportunities for us to meet in person. I personally favor the in-person meetings. I find that the discussion is better. So I think you've got a nice mix of in-person and Zoom here.
All right, sounds good. Anybody else?
I might not be here that last one, but that could change too. So
You're talking about 28th?
yeah.
And again, I mean, right now, if we are able to stick to this draft schedule, then March can be flexible, but I can pretty much guarantee that we're going to have a couple meetings in March to finalize everything. So we'll
For sure,
figure
the
out-
14th.
The March ones, I will be in DC, so if it's not those ones, I won't be able to attend those.
Oh, that's really good to know. Yeah. So it would be good to have those, at least an option for you to participate by telephone or Zoom.
Thanks.
Okay, well, unless there are any objections or concerns, this will be the draft schedule that I'll ask Jenny to use to start inviting the department heads, and some things may change based on people's personal schedules, but I think this should be okay. And what I've tried to do is leave some of our bigger departments as the last agenda items so we can take as long as we need with them. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk about tonight. Although I've drafted the agenda item broadly enough that if people had thoughts or concerns about the FY24 budget review process, we could kind of talk about that. But the main thing I wanted to do was to go over the proposed schedule.
One more thing, I might be not be able to attend February meetings either if it's in person, because the president's budget to Congress is due the first Monday of February. So we'll be running around trying to gather data and respond to any questions in QA from everyone.
Okay.
No,
Thanks for letting us know.
Brian, has there been any further discussion on guidance to departments about how to deal with heating and energy costs?
Yeah, thank you for that. So actually, Ninotchka, correct me if I'm wrong. I think our town administrator is on vacation until after Thanksgiving.
Correct.
Because I had, on something else, I had emailed him and I saw that there was an out of office message. But I want to connect with him because I think there's some updated pricing information, or at least there was an item on a select board agenda related to that. So I'm going to talk with him when he gets back and then follow up on that specifically.
Yep, I believe he'll be back Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't heard anything about the energy.
So, because I want to make sure that I have all of the information that he can provide before sending out emails to the department heads that have energy items in their budgets.
So is the plan to give each department when they come their energy or kind of drop it in at the end?
Yeah, so I think when we do by the time we do our run through in December, I will hopefully be able to make a recommendation to the committee about how we should handle globally all the energy line items. And then whether people have used placeholders before then, it doesn't really matter. But as long as we kind of talk through on the 20th how we want to approach it, then we can, in advance of the department coming in, we can plug it into their budget so that it's reflected when we meet with them. I mean, Nanachka, you tell me whether that, because you're always revising the spreadsheet, so what would work best for you?
I mean, probably a global percentage rate, you know, rather than trying to parse out each individual. Like if the rate's going to go up for Parks and Recs, it's going to go up for DPW too. So I think maybe just kind of an average price increase would be easier. Unless you ask the departments to go back and alter theirs. I don't know.
So November expenditures, you'll be able to close the ledger on that by when?
First week in December. We have a warrant on November 30th. It's a 3 warrant month.
Okay. Okay, so then, because basically by December when we meet, we'll have the first 5 months of this year information to be able to.
If people submit their bills in time.
Okay,
Not always. That's not always the case.
okay.
Is that a way we can request for information from town to see if there's any state or federal assistance that's gonna go coming out due to energy to help with towns?
Are you aware of anything, Nanachka?
Just individually, you know, lower income, but I haven't heard as far as cities and towns.
Do you know who we can ask or where we can research that?
I could check with the Mass Municipal Association whether there's any. So part of the other, actually, this is kind of relevant. So because there's a new governor and a new administration, the legislature's budget process is kind of getting shifted out a little bit. So normally in December, there's like a consensus revenue hearing where the governor and all these, the head of administration and finance, they get together and they talk about what they think their projections are going to be, so that by middle of January, like you have a pretty solid sense of what the budget is. But I think that's all going to be pushed out a little bit. So that could affect when we can incorporate any relief that the governor may be proposing. We might not know about it until later in the process. But I can check with the MMA to see whether they've heard any rumblings about that. Another thing to mention, and this is all public record because it was discussed at I think it was in the paper, the school committee was made aware of, apparently there's a agency within the state that is recommending a 14% increase in, I want to say it's like primarily staffing costs
like
for out of district special
ed.
education placements.
Mhm.
So bottom line is, if that actually happens, then for our district, it's somewhere close to like $290,000 more than they're used to having to pay. So I know that the district wrote a letter to our state senator and state rep to try to push back on that, but that also probably won't be known until the new year. It's going to be an ugly year.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, Bob, that was a long-winded answer to your question.
No, that was great. Thank you.
Anything else before we adjourn?
super excited for a new season.
Yeah, you have your new backdrop,
See?
fiscal year 24. It's the year of
You're the pink.
mauve. I don't know.
I need better lighting. I'll work on it.
Okay, well, everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn, that would be great.
I make a
move we
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn. Second that.
Okay, all in favor,